is open. Do you understand? We have to stop them.
The Führer doesn't look kindly on failure.
I will open a portal.
What is it that makes a man a man? Is it his origins, the way things start? Or is it something else, something harder to describe? It all began in 1944. The Nazis were desperate. Combining science and black magic, they intended to upset the balance of the war.
Well, for initial recruitment, when Knockwaffen landed, the Sigmund database also listed people that would have been synthesizers to potential recruitment for Ops on Earth and SSP assets, people that hate the Cabal, like people that show up on the Red Flag playlists, checklists and all that. They would have had a recruitment arm for that and would have brought those people into service in the event that they did have to use Project Cerberus in order to get their own occupational force on the ground here.
An alternate future timeline that could even be possibly be ours, in which the NWR, I'm going to use the word invade, but essentially are providing aid and relief, a relief mission to help, civil war on planet Earth? Is that the background scenario here?
Somewhat to that effect, yes.
Well, why don't you describe the background? Where is this at? Where does this take place?
It was supposed to happen a couple months ago when the German treaty with the Draco expired in August 2021. It hasn't happened yet, but they could still intervene at any time. And I've seen that they're going to wait for everything to basically start burning down here before they start landing. So they're waiting for a war or something, or a Cabal takedown or something before they start really calling shots and intervening. Because they want to see the friendly populations first, friendly to them, and then intervene and then start recruiting those populations into SSP service or occupational forces or ICC workforces, stuff like that.
It looks like, based on what you're describing, the SSP folks are waiting for this, I guess, a great awakening to take place before they come in and intervene. But question is, are we going to see? Do you foresee everything being burned down, falling apart before this great awakening takes place, or what do you?
Potentially, yes.
So during this time, before this transitional period takes place, or before, I guess to say, the officials come out and say the SSP is real, SSP whistleblowers are made fun of. People don't believe us. They think we're fake. Some of us, harassed and hated. Do you also see that happening here in this timeline, where people are still going to deny this takes place until this Knockwaffen group shows
It's going to have to be Draco or Grays or someone to show up and start really questioning, because it's gone to a point where at one point, a whole bunch of interstellar space-faring Germans, when it might have seemed laughable, but even then, now, people are just brushing it off as it's nothing. So I'm not even sure what's really going to happen once Knockwaffen starts coming down here. I mean, if anything, they'll probably start thinking, because don't forget, we are in North America too. They could just say, we got all these recruitments from Germany to show up here and start calling the shots, and then no one's going to suspect it, because again, it's North America. Everyone's usually doing their own thing, right? They wouldn't suspect a thing. So let's say we put Germans in North America and we put Americans in Germany, stuff like that. Because don't forget, Knockwaffen also has IDARF, which could be utilized in something like this as well, and other organizations that could be used for Knockwaffen.
IDARF. So IDARF is the Interplanetary Defense and Reaction Forces. So this is basically the Cabal working with Darkfleet in a joint venture ship, and they were allowed to have their little breakaway group and spread their monetary.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
They go to other planets, set all that up, so they're spreading this all over the place. But Yeah, so, but really, Knockwaffen has most of the band's tech. It's just that right now, I think it's if I'm not mistaken, 2023 is when the schism takes place, where a third of Knockwaffen breaks away and joins the Alliance, which right now is, the Alliance consists pretty much not much. Maybe a few groups in Space Force and the Arcturians and Andromedians who are working with the
Nazis. They're the foot soldiers of a Jew-hating, mass-murdering maniac.
I guess behind the scenes running the United States of America, not the Mr. B, this the other president. But so IDARF is the Cabal's version, their breakaway group, and so these guys, they're all going to need to get chased down once planet Earth is liberated. We'll have to go after them. That's why we need Space Force. But first things first, so let's start with liberation of planet Earth. Can you give us more information on how, from your perspective, how that actually takes place with this Project Bluebee timeline? What do you recall?
Werner von Braun mentioned in his time with Fairchild Semiconductor that there'd be plagues, asteroid strikes, supposedly war actions that would trigger the landing of Knockwaffen Argier. So far, we've already seen plagues. We haven't seen asteroid strikes, but we've seen a lot of screeching about it in the media. Plus, the Cabal has been launching asteroids at us for God knows how long now. And then there's also war actions. You have Iran going off. You have Greece rearming. You have Europe rearming. North America. There's all these pictures of M1 Abrams and stuff being sent to the West Coast a while back, because we originally thought that with the QAnon stuff would have happened months ago with a takeover, but this hasn't happened yet. But the only other explanation could be a potential war somewhere in Eastern Asia, because they wouldn't be sending all that stuff to California or wherever else, unless it was either for crowd control once a takedown happens there, or war overseas.
So you're almost saying the Alliance has pulled away from helping humanity, sort of just let all just evil run rampant in order to wake the populations up?
I wouldn't say the Alliance is pulled back. I'm just saying, like, Knockwaffen is waiting for an opportunistic time for them to intervene. But the Alliance is still in there, and after Knockwaffen intervenes, the Alliance can start doing its work a lot more efficiently than it can when we're still in orbit. For example, if they were to start landing here, let's say, tonight, I mean, if they're on the ground as assets, it's a lot more helpful to the Alliance, recruiting people and bringing people on board than they are stuck in orbit with Germans and Draco running aboard, trying to keep everything. Because these people all do have black goo, nanites, trackers. They can't just, like, travel down to the Earth and back up into space or Antarctica or something, because with the portals too, it's only access to high clearance personnel only. Only a limited amount of people can do that, and the Alliance has to be extremely careful with not eliminating their very last assets in order to try and bring people on board. So they have to wait for an actual intervention to happen before we can start doing most of the work. They can do stuff from remote viewing and like psychically, yes, but they have to wait for Bluebee or Knockwaffen to actually land before they can start doing the work with the rest of the general population.
Alright, well, I just want to mention something else here. So, part of the schism that takes place with Knockwaffen, which hasn't happened yet, it's over this black goo where the Draco there are many of them, maybe all of them, are infected with this AI biobots that's overriding their consciousness to be more negative aligned. But then humans come along with an average IQ of 100, and compared to a Draco or maybe 1,000 IQ, so we have to figure out a way to level the playing field. So humans decide to consume this black goo, and their IQ goes up to maybe 300-400, and now it's a little bit more level, but now they're consumed by the same problem. So this alliance, the whole thing was about this black goo. In order to become an upper level officer and Knockwaffen, you needed to consume this, but some members didn't want to do that. Now, as far as what you're describing, it almost seems like this splinter group as opposed to that, are you seeing like two different factions of positive and negative, and which one do you think is coming to rescue us?
From what Jason Rice was mentioning a couple years back, anyone above Lieutenant Colonel and above would be trying to be brought into the Black Sun Society for knockoff and Ranger, and that is where the Black Goo comes in because usually they demand it. When I was going through the last promotion right after the White Earl Draco incident in the mid to late 2020s in that timeline, I do remember getting promoted and they were trying to get me on it, but the thing is, you can also transfer units. Just like in the U.S. military, you can transfer units and try and delay install. There's also combat operations and stuff like that. And near the end of the 2020s, there was a resistance movement that was starting to actively oppose the Knockwaffen on the earth before Russia and China intervened and ended it. Because Knockwaffen did land, but there were still Russia and China to contend with as well, and they weren't eating any of us up. They're developing tech and God knows.
What a load of crap! Hell, a week ago I never even heard the word paranormal. Paranormal. Move it!
So Knockwaffen did start landing. They land mostly in friendly countries like North America, South America, Europe. But Russia and China wouldn't have the landings. But there's this skepticism. The U.S. has been basically paperclip Fourth Reich and sort of war and SSP stuff for decades now. So.
Can you go back to the blue beam aspect? So blue beam is when they are putting holograms, plane holograms in the sky, and probably using ELF weapons, which are extremely low frequencies, to alter the brainwave patterns to think that the person is seen some kind of deity show up, like Jesus Christ has come to resurrected from the dead to create the rapture or whatnot. So what can you tell us about what you recall from that timeline about Project Bluebee?
Or gave us like anything like too advanced, especially considering what we're going up against. It was mostly occupational. But we did have the healing technology though, that came out. The healing technology came out and the energy technology came out, however, it was very heavily guarded.
In this particular timeline, what year do you think that those technologies start getting released? From what you remember?
Definitely by 2026. First, methods and everything by 2026. Absolutely. Before that, it was a trickle here and there.
It's like it's going to be in the news media or the internet that there's definitely there are aliens here.
Not the Draco Gray aspect. They'd be sticking in the shadows. It'd be the Germans doing the work. It wouldn't be like Draco patrolling around it. So the Draco and Greys would all stay off planet, but the Germans would be running around here.
Okay, so you're saying is it actually Knockwaffen, like the negative side of Knockwaffen invading? Is that what you're thinking?
And the other thing too, their treaty expired. Don't forget, they also have these carrier battle groups that are going around who are fighting with Idar, fighting with Draco, that they have to provide cannon fodder for Draco or Greys. They can bring all those assets back here in no time, and for all we know, that could be millions upon billions of people.
Knockwaffen working in proxy for the Draco are apparently going to invade planet Earth, and then the Alliance, which is split off from a positive faction of Knockwaffen that didn't want to go with that, are going to be eventually coming around too to push that invasion force back. Is that what you're describing in this scenario?
Yes.
They must be here for the sheep.
And at that point, can people that are in denial, let's say the average person who don't give a crap about aliens, who probably don't even care if their neighbors are pedophiles, they just want to live their life, will they still be comfortable in that sphere, or will they have to wake up too? What do you think?
It won't be so obvious at first, but eventually they'll definitely wake up and we're not going to be happy with what they see.
What can you tell us about the 302nd Yugoslav unit? What is that?
wanted, they would start doing traditional units and military style and recruiting for that. So it wouldn't have been the original like knockoff and stuff that they went into space with, but it would have been a separate command they established after landing here. It's basically where they recruit friendly assets or former SSP assets into an occupational force to do also. Well, first to round the cabal and stuff, but after a while it just became mostly like patrol work and like building ships and like guarding like facilities, constructing like these massive pumpkin seed craft, stuff like that. Because for some reason they weren't so interested in constructing the battleships, for more constructing interested in constructing the pumpkin seed craft from what I've been seeing from all my recall. Like they specifically needed cargo ships and trade ships, almost as if a cataclysm was coming or something to do with a galactic economy or something like that. The attacks on everything else using their advanced technology. For Knockoff and Regier, they might have gotten caught in a crossfire or tried to escape, but the Galactic Federation surrounded the solar system and started going in planet by planet. Supposedly what they're doing right now, but in this timeline they did it in 2031 after the AI started giving a computer that much power, like AI Watson. Now, there's been talk like from Dr. Kuzavuch, for example, might be the positive AI computer, but there's a lot of other people I've been talking to that said they are actually a native computer that's actually going to start bringing things to heads.
Well, essentially, Go ahead.
Sorry, for the Black Goo now, they did have a Black Goo knockoff in Regier, but AI Watson stuff was only like a lower level of the Black Goo AI tech in a sense. So we were still operating off of Black Goo, or for the second people, it wouldn't be Black Goo, but you'd have nanites still in your system. So nanites that weren't affected by the Black Goo, that would still like boost your abilities, your energy, stuff like that.
On my show, and she remembers an alternate timeline in which Obama came out. They actually, the SSP folks turned, because he was an android apparently is what she said, and they turned him off on live TV, and the SSP folks came out, the positive faction, and told the public that the SSP is real, Obama was an android, and that the cabal has 24 hours to put their testimonies, their of what they did with their PEDO activities and that drug that rhymes with a popular Google browser on on YouTube, and they for in exchange for amnesty. There might be a transitional period, but I don't want to see, the United States or and other places in the world fall apart and burn in civil war and chaos, but maybe there's a way that there's positive forces out there. I mean, you say the Galactic Federation shows up. I mean, they show up after the fact. I mean, why not show up now? I mean, they could do that, but I guess people have to want it, and nobody's really wanting it because nobody really knows about it. Like I said earlier, they just want to continue living their life. They want the train to keep running. Anyway, okay. So what can you tell us about that?
I started my awakening process over the years, but it really started kicking in around 2017, so the past 4 years. And I did learn quite a few SRA sites in Canada and I guess ley lines and stuff where the worst activity usually happens. There is one specific one. I think it got mentioned by a couple of whistleblowers before, but international peace gardens on the Canadian-U.S. border is definitely one of them for either SRA or for SSP recruitment.
Is that the one in Bosavane?
Sounds like a Bosavane, right around North Dakota.
Somewhat close to it. We've got your super soldier program, good, bad, it's all perception. I guess it all, even like negative people, they think they're good. They think what they're doing is good. So it's kind of, I guess, like you said, it's perception. Masonic Auditorium Memorial.
Yeah, it was an auditorium, with in the pictures inside had like all sorts of purple line curtains and people in the traditional Freemason cabal garb. So it would have been black or dark blue, like royal purple.
All right. So what is it specifically you want us to know about this facility? This building. Is there like a
For people living in Grand Forks, North Dakota, Fargo, North Dakota, Moorhead, Minnesota, or Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, they used to do a lot of school trips here for the International Peace Gardens where free of charge. They're gonna bring all these random high school age or young adult people to the International Peace Gardens for a couple of days for camping. There's a camping ground nearby on the U.S. side, on both the lane and the Canadian side, but eventually they would have ceremonies and pick people up from these groups and then indoctrinate them through the SRAs and potentially into SSP service through Freemason lodges. That's also why they have it at the International Peace Gardens, is because it's lying around the border. And prior to 9/11, all you needed was a driver's license to cross the border, so literally anybody could show up there without needing a passport or any paper record. All you need is a driver's license, and you're good to go.
Were there ever any good Freemasons? Would you like to comment on that one?
I mean, thinking about it, around the George Washington era, I might believe so, yes. But anything after that, when the Federal Reserve kicked in and all those wars, and of course all the cabal SRA crap, I mean, eventually I think they just got compromised. Because there's also been other people mentioning that supposedly the U.S. was to never exist in some timelines because everything was supposed to be based in Europe and it was supposed to be like something else. And supposedly the U.S. was to never exist in some timelines because everything was supposed to be based in Europe and it was supposed to be like something else entirely. But the Freemasons were the ones that actually create the United States of America, which would actually potentially be an anomaly and a prime timeline of sorts, because supposedly in our future prime timeline is supposed to be humanity is one. It's not supposed to be like humanity as United States controlling the entire planet. It's supposed to be like 6 or 7 billion people all as one, service to one, etc., etc.
The Bureau doesn't look kindly on failure.
So in that case, the Freemasons, I also believe, are just really not helping us whatsoever.